Hooray, we got the first step. Oh, there we go. Okay, can you hear me okay now?
All right.
Perfect. All
I can
right,
hear you just fine.
excellent. Okay, welcome to Allegories Horror Stories, and I'm gonna send this over to Stuart at the horror tree. Hopefully, everything goes off without a hitch. It's been a long time since I did one of these, and the bells and whistles have changed a little since then.
Yeah, no problem. No problem.
Okay, well, first of all, I guess I should make an introduction. Do you go by Steve or Steven?
I go by Steve.
Steve. Okay, you're Steve from Whisper House Press, and you're releasing in September, I believe it is, the Cost of Living anthology.
Yeah. Costs of Living comes out September 1st.
Ooh,
And then our second anthology, which is called Dread Mondays, comes out in late October.
awesome. So let's tell me a little bit about yourself and about Whisper House Press. What inspired you to start your own publishing company? And is there a story behind the name Whisper House?
So about me, I came to writing fiction
Uh-oh.
fairly late. I I wrote for about 10 or 12 years, and after getting out of grad school, I had time to read more fiction, and, and I I grew up wanting to be a writer, but didn't really have ideas about what I wanted to write. I didn't think I had anything to say. And once I started traveling and was able to read a lot more, the ideas just started coming, and I started publishing. And then I decided I don't love being totally dependent on uh, other folks to publish stuff that I think is the coolest. And if I were in, I am like an e get to charge. I would do a great job. I would just be so good at this. And so I decided I wanted to start a press so that I could publish other people's stuff. And I want to give them a kind of boutique experience, like I'm catering to their hopes and dreams for their writing, and I really want to do them proud, and I really want to respect their work and them personally. And in the first year, a little bit over about 13 months of operation, I've read 900 submissions and have edited over 80 author put together these two books. I'm editing the second one now, and I am really excited about these books and about what I can do next. I'm just thrilled with how things have gone, and everybody that I've been in contact with, whether they be other publishers when I'm asking for help or advice, or horror authors who have submitted, or just other horror authors in general. I just feel so supported by the horror community, and it's been really great. There's no real story behind Whisper House Press. A couple of years I wanted to start a press, and I thought, well, I can't start a press if I don't have a decent name. And I was at the Life, the Universe, and Everything conference 2 years ago. It's a fantasy and spec fiction conference and convention here in Utah. And I was hanging with the Utah chapter of the Horror Writers Association and the folks there, and just it kind of came to me, and I said, "Oh, hey, how about this?" And I pitched them the idea, and they said, "Shh, don't tell him." Um, and so I founded that press within a month, and now I get to do everything myself, which has its drawbacks, but um, I have in the last year, I have just loved every step of the process. Really,
Yeah,
really enjoy it.
yeah, I agree. It's definitely a learning process when you start going through the stories. And this is going to sound really bad, but I always felt better about my own writing after reading some of the submissions that just were not ready for publication. Any new writer, I always tell them, read Slush, it will change your life. So, my next question is Cost of living has a lot of varied stories. There's something for everybody, I think. And did you find that there were some that were good stories or even great, but they just weren't right? And did you have any stories that were that you kind of? I always had this process where I had a yes, no, maybe, and a lot of them were no, and about maybe a third of them were maybe, and maybe 1 in 20, if I was lucky, was yes, this one, this is right. Did you find that there were stories like that?
Yeah, I really didn't know what to expect when I was getting into it, and I had this fairly meticulous system wherein I did have a kind of yes, no, maybe, but I was also taking little notes about what I really liked, and what I gathered was that I just got a really strong gut feeling with a bunch of them, and where I just thought somebody's writing was hilarious. Homeowners Association
That's a good one.
story, letter to the homeowners associate or from the homeowners association, which is the lead off in this collection. And spoiler alert, I've got another one from her featuring mini raptors in the second one as well,
Oh,
in the
even
second
better.
anthology as well. And her sense of yeah, her sense of humor just appealed to me where I thought, this is it. I mean, the suburbs are terrifying, sees the humor and how awful they are.
Yeah.
And HOAs are among the most terrifying parts of the suburbs, and she just gets it. And it was with that kind of a story, I had a similar feeling about a story about a journalist. And I'm forgetting the name of the story now because I now have 40 other stories in my brain. But story about a journalist seeking out the
Oh, we
truth,
lost. Oh, sorry.
and I and I loved it. I just thought this is this is perfect. And Yeah, I wish I had a better I wish I had a better memory, but oh, Idols of Godless Men was the name of this story, and I really enjoyed that one immediately. And as I went through, and I had about 300-ish submissions for the first, I think I had 280 or 290. As I went through, I realized that my gut feeling got more was coming together. Whereas at first I felt like I was on really shaky ground, but as I started to build the collection based on what I had these very strong feelings about, it gave me more confidence about what would fit with the things that were already in the book. And it worked even better for my second one. And I had way more submissions for the second one. I had like 500 to 600 submissions for the second one. And even that, like the gut feeling that I was worried wouldn't be there was there pretty much immediately for the and I use the yes no maybe, but a lot of it came down to a gut feeling. And while I and I had I have I kind of I realized that I want to be equitable to I want everybody to have a fair shot at being in the anthology, but at some point it just comes down to what my taste is
Yeah.
and where my subjective judgment is. And so to extend otherwise have that an opportunity to get a fair shake, I did an extended deadline for the second anthology for certain demographics, marginalized communities and such. But then I still read them and I either feel it or don't feel it. So there is a kind of balance where I'm trying to make sure that I'm not picking stories that are culturally just rehashing what's already in my head. But also they do have to fit some gut sense going to be.
Yeah. I get that. Speaking of, I don't call it cultural rehashing, but there were three stories. Um, one was the Halloween story, one was the duck story, and there was another one. And they reminded me specifically of there's a sort of idea among folk horror that you have to pay the sacrifice to keep the small town rolling. So, Rainy Season by Stephen King, The Lottery by Shirley Jackson, and there's another also Halloween story by Robert McCammon that all had very similar sounds. Did you find that there were kind of callbacks and references that you could make with the stories? I mean, those ones were ones
Well,
that I
yeah,
liked
and
particularly, but
so my academic training is in philosophy and ethics. So I was not thinking so much of rainy season, although I see that connection now. I was thinking more in terms of like the ones who walk away from Omelas and story. Quinn, come here. I have my little husky here. I'm sorry.
oh, we
He's
love dogs. I always want to see dogs.
I would love to show you, but he decided just now he's leaving, so he just left the office.
That's
But
okay.
he's been my writing buddy all day today, or my editing buddy, as it were. Yeah, so I think I often think about stories by Jean-Paul Sartre, like the Strangers, Camus, The Strangers, like by Ursula K. Le Guin's The Ones Who Walk Away from Omelas, which I used to use every term in my Intro to Ethics course. Um, because for me, horror a lot of times is like a thought experiment, and philosophers love thought experiments. They sometimes I've heard them referred to as I think Dan Dennett called them intuition pumps. And so I'm always curious, like, how do I react to this kind of a setup? And if there's a cost to keep the community going, that is it feels to me like a thought experience class or something. So
Yeah.
that's my point of reference for that stuff. Although, I mean, yeah, now that you mention it, it does sound a lot. I mean, there's a commonality in this idea that everything has a cost, and to keep a community quiet, you have to pay a toll. Family Reunion was the other one like that, I think.
Yes,
Um, and that was a story about the lake.
that's one. Yep, that's the one.
Um,
Sorry,
yeah.
I read the
There
book
was one
about
called
a month ago. So
Sack
there,
that is like that too. Sorry.
which one was that? Sorry, you kind of cut out a little bit.
Oh, Sacrifice was the other one like that by Beth Anderson. And that was the one about kids out in the woods, and
Right. Okay.
there's a prank and it goes wrong and a bad thing happens to a family member or friend.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a similar thing.
Yeah. 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 And as you said here, I thought it was a really good quote that I liked. That you were saying on one of your interviews. You describe fiction as a way of understanding what someone might feel in a situation that is unthinkable. So in there's a really good essay by what's his name? Dallas Mayor, Jack Ketchum, and he says he finishes by saying, "What breaks your heart? What scares you? What's the worst thing you've ever done?" So, what is horror to you as an editor, as a writer, or as a reader?
Um, yeah, so I suppose I have to go back to this idea that my experience is really limited in a way. I'm only me, and I can only have my perspective and my point of view. And a librarian used to quote another librarian, and the quote was something like, "Books are windows, doors, and mirrors. They show us ourselves, they show us the world outside, or they open up to the world outside of us." And I think about horror as like being one of those three things, depending on the kind of story that I'm looking at. Usually, horror is not a mirror for me so much as it is a window or a door. And Tananarive Dew's The Good House. And I I am getting this perception of this awful situation being experienced by somebody who's coming from a totally different place than where I come from. And I feel like I'm getting to explore without there is no frigate like a book or Stephen King's like uniquely portable magic comment. Um, Really, for me, horror is about just the most interesting form of fiction for me. So fiction is like allowing me to see the world through other people's eyes, through these imagined scenarios. And I think of myself as kind of an optimistic cynic in that I uh, uh, anything in this world. But I believe that we attribute value to the things that we care deeply about. And fiction is my way of connecting to other people. And I also have a struggle with connecting empathetically with other people, just not the way my brain works. And so fiction is a way for me to empathize with others, and that's that doors and windows thing as well. I get to see what somebody else is experiencing or feel what they're feeling to some extent, and in a safe way.
Right. Yeah, I mean, most of us aren't ever
As
going to
as
be
a
chased around by
as a
action
horror
killers.
author, yeah, and then as a horror author, I just want to explore strange situations. And that's what most of my stuff that comes out of my head is based on particular fears that are recurring for me that I want to explore safely. And because of my background with mental illness and back when I was a teenager, substance abuse, that things aren't what they seem or that I'm misapprehending what I'm experiencing. And a lot of my horror writing is about um, is about not knowing what's real and what's not, or about things compelling us, things beyond our control compelling us to do what we wouldn't otherwise do. And so it totally panics me, freaks me out. A lot of my ideas come from the intrusive thoughts that get me up in the middle of the night thinking about the strange man in the backyard or something. So far, there hasn't been a strange man in the backyard, but one of these days, I'm going to look out my bathroom window and there's going to be somebody standing there. That's sort of how I'm living my life with a constant stream of odd things. So as a writer, that's what I'm thinking about. Um,
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, I have the I can never let even one
and
toe
yeah,
dangle off the edge of the bed or something will grab it or those paranoid fears that are really kind of silly. Even when my bed is on the floor, nothing can possibly be under it. Still got to keep my all my limbs in. Okay, what's the next question? Uh you're also a teacher. Do you find that your experiences as a teacher influence your writing or editing in any way? Are you still with me? You're kind of frozen there. Hello? Oh, hang on. Okay, we might have to refresh our screens. Um, I'm not sure what's going on with this. Oh, there you are. Oh, you're back. Okay.
I just lost you for a moment there.
Yeah.
Okay, sorry. Can you repeat that
Okay.
question?
Um, okay, you're also a teacher. Do your experiences as a teacher influence your writing or editing in any way?
Yeah, yes. I'd say one of the biggest things that I've improved on as a teacher is um, meeting people where they are and trying to help out. And so when I'm giving feedback to authors who are already contracted to be a part of my anthologies or on the whisperhousepress.com website, I'm thinking like, okay, how do I make myself really clear and understandable that my intent is to help them to be as clear as possible in executing their vision and not to alter to make up out of the way of the thing that they want to do. Um, and I I got that from working with students over the last 18 years, 19 years now, of trying at first, those first few years, trying to make students be where I was and learn the way I learned and write the way I wrote. And but this is like
I lost you again. Shoot. Are you still there?
uh, it's such a
Hang on a second. Oh, are you still there?
I am still here.
Okay, hold
I
on.
just did a speed check and I'm getting 300 megabytes. Okay. I just did a speed check to make sure I'm okay. I think I'm getting about 300 megabytes per second. I should be stable.
Yeah,
Um,
my internet is sketchy at best, and so I keep getting these "your internet's unstable" warnings. So, okay, well, we don't have too much left to go here. So I had asked if your experiences as a teacher influence you as an editor, and you said that um, you're working with the students or the authors in this case to bring out the best in their writing rather than trying to impose your own ideas on what the story should be. And that was where I kind of lost you.
yeah, and I uh, my intentions clear. I used to go about my business expecting that everybody understood from the get-go that my intent was to help and to not to impose. And I mean, I just assumed that people assumed best intentions on my part, but I've gotten a lot better at making those intentions explicit and clear, and that has been really important. And when I read this book about copy editing fiction from the University of Chicago Press. And one of the things that the writer has talked about, Amy Schneider talks about in here, is when you're putting comments on authors' work, don't be afraid to write in like really positive things and make sure that when you're phrasing your critiques that it's this kind of a tone. And I thought, you know what? I have been doing a pretty good job at that, but in a comment like this is great, this is hilarious, and at the end of the story, I give a kind of general impression, which is typically because I've already accepted the story. Like I know I love the story, so I just remind them how what I a particular thing about the story that I really like. But reading that does make me a little more mindful that I'm not just like, especially when it comes to like grammar corrections, I have to weigh like what is the voice of the character in the story, and I'm not here to make everybody speak perfect grammatical English, which is not really even possible anyway, since the language is in motion at all times. But I do need to be cautious about how I'm communicating the things that I think will help the author to be clearer about what they intend. And I'm learning. I've I really think that by editing so many different authors, I've gotten so much better. I feel like I have a cheat code with my own writing.
Yeah.
And I am really grateful for the opportunity to gain so much experience. And because I've paid for all the stories, I guess I'm buying the experience. So it's not free exactly, but I do feel like I'm getting a leg up on I hate to call it the competition, but like my former self, let's just say against my former approach, I'm getting better all the time. And I have so much so
Well, it's certainly cheaper than an MFA. um, the cost of living anthology.
yeah, and I have a few yeah. I was saying I have a few of those master's degrees already. I don't want to spend any more money and
Yeah,
I'll probably go back and get one someday, but not because I need one, but because it would be entertaining to me, I think.
yeah,
I love school.
yeah. I can't afford school, but I used to like it. So you feature a mix of new and established authors in the cost of living, and I assume in the other anthology that's coming up. Are there any new authors you feel that we should be watching for in the future?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. Yeah. So, my, I, if I name anybody in particular, I'm gonna feel like I'm leaving people out. I'm really hesitant to name anybody in particular. Like, there are some people here who already have respect among broader population, like Sylvia Langeal, who writes as C.R. Langeal, runs a publishing house already and has great work out there, like in Cosmic Horror Monthly and stuff. But I don't know if people are reading her work. Or like Jordan King Lacroix. Jordan King Lacroix is a writer from Australia who writes with a precision that I wish I had. Um, Coming across Jordan's work. So like that would be another person. John Mahoney has a unique perspective. He's in New Jersey, and he was incarcerated for a while, and he was writing a lot of his stories from prison. And he submitted his story for cost of living from through his mother from a cell. And he's since been released and he's an awesome guy, but his perspective is something I really could talk about. Like, um, gosh, there's so many good people. Angela Zollner is an artist as well as a writer and brings a kind of emotional touch to the writing that I don't understand. Like I write somewhat mechanically and like I see the action in my head like a movie and I can describe what the characters' faces are doing and but Angela's expression of emotion is really writing is efficient in a like so her background is in journalism, and her writing is efficient in a way that I try to emulate. Yeah, there are so many. We have 35 in this book and 36 in the next book, and they're from places as far away as Iranian Kurdistan and Australia, and like we just had an author on our website. These are authors who are so different from me. I just hope people are checking them out. Um, but yeah, all of the people I named, they're worth checking out. But then there are another 25 or 30 that I didn't name and that are also doing really excellent work. And then people are familiar with Sam Weller. He's in this book, and Lisa Morton is in our next book. And those are folks who have been very kind and supportive. To me and their advice and all of that. Uh, but horror authors are some of the most supportive people I've come across.
Agreed. Yeah, I've been sort of at the fringes of the horror community for about 15 years now, and they're all wonderful people. And I met a lot of really, really great people online. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to attend any cons, and I just got a message from Zoom that I'm almost out of time. So I'm going to have to wrap up with another question.
Yeah, we have about
Okay, I guess, oh, so many questions, but I guess I'm just gonna leave it up to you. What's the next step? And if there's anything else you want to tell us about before we go, now's your chance.
sure. Yeah, sure. So I'd like for people to know about whisperhousepress.com, where I post a featured author, a guest author every month, and we're always soliciting submissions for that too. Of mundane horror. Our first anthology here is like it started with the idea of suburban horror. It got a little bit more expansive after I started building that collection. And the next one is Dread Mondays, and that's workplace horror. So people should look out for those books and submit to our website. I pay $10 a short, which if you're writing 200 to 1,000 words is not bad, I guess. And yeah, I would love to meet people and talk with Blue Sky. Whisper House Press is on Blue Sky, and my name is on there with attached to it. And I've also got a TikTok and all that other stuff. But you can get to me through my website or editor at whisperhousepress.com. And folks should look out for Cost of Living on the 1st of September and Dread Mondays on October 25th. As in terms of what's next, as I said, we've been in operation now for 13 months. We still have, and I haven't had any opportunity to make any sales. So right now we're like running on empty in terms of cash. It's all outflow. There's no, and I don't expect to be rich and famous for writing, editing anthologies and putting out people's work, but I really want to be able to maintain a level of at least zero. I really want to break even so that I can justify to my family the time and effort that I put into
Yeah.
this. Visual authors. I would love to work with authors who seem to get ignored or for whatever reason aren't able to find a publishing house that suits them, but where they maybe fit my way of looking at things and not to mirror my perspective again, but to like the folks who are in these anthologies, like I wish I could publish their books too. And I know that I don't have, truth be told, I have uh, the reputation or the market share or whatever you want to call it to start putting out individual authors' books. So my hope is that with Cost of Living and Dread Mondays, I can earn some street cred among horror readers and horror writers that they would want to work with me or they want to read our books that independent booksellers will see our books and think, oh, I recognize them. They did a good job with that other thing. And maybe I'll be able to put out individual authors. That would be my in this series of mundane horror publishing this train of thought on mundane horror. I want to do one about family dinners and one about airports and train stations and car
Oh, the
family
bus
car
station.
rides, just kind of all of the
The bus station in any city is like when I was a kid, we had a basement and sewage would come up from the basement. That was like where everything gathered. That's the bus station in any city. So bus station horror alone would be a its own thing.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so in short, I really just want to keep doing this. And I I'm looking for ways to extend my opportunity to keep editing and keep working with horror writers and I want to provide to horror writers and horror readers the thing that a bigger organization doesn't have, the personal bandwidth. I want to get to know my writers and be supportive of them and publish them in the future as well. And I kind of I'm thinking about how in the best possible version of a very bad system of the studio system in the 20s to 40s in Hollywood was like you sign with us and we'll build you up and we'll help you out for years to come. And I'm sort of thinking like in a good version of that, like where maybe some author really likes working with me and then they want to work with me again. I think that would be really cool.
All right. Well, I wish you the best of what's to come, and I look forward to reading the next installment. And I want to thank you again on behalf of my channel and on behalf of the Horror Tree. And thank you so much. And I wish you all the best luck and the best of horror. But you don't need luck. This is a great product. I think at least it's going to get some attention. So
I'm so very appreciative of your time reading our book and then chatting with me today. And I'll send you the next one as soon as I'm done editing it.
awesome. We'll see. We'll hear from you soon then. Okay. Have a great afternoon. Enjoy the rest of your day. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you. You too. Bye bye.